Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is John here. This is Pest Finders Professionals. And I'm delighted to have another guest, so you're not listening to me droning on about different things in the pest industry, but as someone who knows a lot more than me. And I got to meet this gentleman in another networking, if you like, networking app. They're all over the friggin' internet these days. And what I found was very unique about his business was that he teaches pest control officers and he offers training. And I thought that was not only beneficial to bring in for our members at Pest Finder Pro, but also to get it out there because, you know, I know some of my clients now, they're away taking extra classes, you know, they get bored, they get numb with it. And wouldn't it be great if you could just do everything at home in your own time? and yes, so welcome to Pest Finder Professionals. Kurt from Pest Pro University. How you doing, brother?
Awesome. Hey, thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it. Hopefully I can keep a lot of energy and make it entertaining for everybody with kind of some of that pressure. But yeah, I appreciate it. Been in pest control for nearly 20 years now. And, you know, it's one of those industries where once you get in, you are in. And so lifetime kind of thing with it. And so I'm loving it, enjoying it. And yeah, I have started Pest Pro University to kind of help businesses train their people up faster.
That's brilliant, Kurt. And just if you notice as we're recording, if it goes a bit quiet, just keep staring at the screen because Riverside also, they keep it constantly updating. But we had a general chat beforehand because we don't really know each other. We've never really met each other beforehand, but I find it very unique in what you're doing. But you've had experience in this industry and you haven't just come in and said, hey, I've never been in the pest control industry before. I'm going to set up a university or I'm going to teach people to grow their businesses. But let's talk about your experience a little bit.
Yeah. So I worked for a company called Preventive Pest Control. They've had, I think, upwards of like 9 branches, and so a fairly large size company on everything. I worked in management, their corporate office, everything like that. I worked as a technician for them, and so I've experienced a ton of different levels of pest control on that. And you know, a friend and I had started a company, and again, when you're hiring people, you're bringing them on, you're doing these kind of things. It just takes a lot of effort, energy, work to get them all of the knowledge that you accumulate over time. And sometimes that's just kind of the way it is that you just have to go time. And so it's one of those where, you know, we also get a lot of people who tell us, hey, look, yeah, we are making videos and we're kind of doing the same thing just with our company. And hey, look, I love that. Go for it. You should be doing it. That was kind of where the idea came from. But when I tried to do it in my own, it was like, hey, look, like, I'm a pest control guy. I'm not a videographer. I don't have the equipment. I don't have all that other kind of stuff that goes into it. I don't know how to edit it. I don't know how to piece it together. I don't know how to do all this. And I just kind of lucked out that a friend of mine of 30 years just kind of said, hey, look, I do all this video training. Would this be a benefit? And I thought, holy cow, like that would be amazing if we could get that out there and put it and, you know, make sure that everybody just kind of gets it so that you're not repeating yourself a million times over every time somebody new comes in or there's new information or anything.
How much benefit do you put in the industry in continuing education, and not just education for, you know, people who are starting in the industry, but I guess from what I see from what you do is you're really well established. You've got lots of training there. Where is the benefit that you offer to growing companies, to companies that are already established?
Yeah, I think that there's a whole lot of benefit for them. You know, one is that again, what you do or what I've done or majority of every company that I know on everything is that, hey, look, you hire a new guy, you pull him into the classroom and you sit with PowerPoints and you sit with, you know, notes and things like that. And you have a whole list of all these things that you have to go through. And, you know, you kind of give that and kind of some of the benefit that I'm saying is I've had times where guys show up that one day and then they just don't come back. And so it's literally the biggest waste of time if that happens to you because, hey, you're there. You know, with our program, they can kind of come in, they can watch all the videos, they can get an understanding. We take them into the field. They learn it quicker. You know, another benefit is when I'm teaching and training, man, I go off on tangents. I tell stories. I do all this other kind of stuff. And look, it just takes a lot of time to get you that information when you're telling stories or joking around or doing these other kind of things. We
Yeah.
stay right on course. We have everything like that. And look, we make them as fun as possible. We put a lot of time into editing them. I love everybody who does training. They do an amazing job. The knowledge. With video, though, we do have it that it's not somebody who's just stuck at a podium speaking and talking about it, because we can go into the field, we can cut, we can put music to it, we can use graphics, we can do all these other kind of things to show you and make it more engaging, more entertaining. And so it's just kind of a big help. So yeah, when you're saying, hey, look, what do you add? It's hey, you get all the information quicker, you get it more accurately, you get everything just right there as as fast as possible, and it makes training more efficient.
I love that idea, Kurt, because I remember, as I said to you when we were talking just beforehand, I did pest control in the British Army. So you're told what, I didn't
Yeah.
mind it because I was interested in bugs. I mean, what kid like spiders and anything and
Yeah.
I remember you get put in a classroom, and the worst thing is you sit in a classroom. What if the guy in the classroom, and we did have some, was really freaking boring, and they've got this monotonous voice that you're sitting
Yep.
there and you're like, oh, get over it. How many times can he say fleas
Yeah.
in a different?
Yeah, no, exactly. And look, it is kind of one of those things as well, where look, when I go to CEU trainings, again, those speakers are brilliant, they are awesome, and if you are diving in, hey, that's great. But again, not all of them have that energy. Not all of them have this fun thing where you can kind of engage it. So as I sit at conferences and I'm a vendor there and everything like that, I see guys a lot of times, man, their head goes down. They're on their phones. They're doing these other kind of things because it's like, hey, look, this isn't exactly where I want to be. So we get to kind of liven that up a little bit, make it more interesting. And then again, our videos are typically, we try to keep them in that, 3 to 8, 10-minute kind of video.
Oh,
And then they got to hit that. Yeah. Then it's not too much like, hey, look, I'm just going to hit play and I'm going to go grab lunch and I'm going to do something like that. They've got to be there constantly to kind of hit next all the time. And then, like I said, we have all the graphics, the other things that come with it, the music, and then you're quizzed on it as well. And so it's not like, hey, look, I can just skip out and do these other kind of things. It's like you got to kind of pay attention and be a part of it. And any supervisor or whatever gets to kind of monitor your progress, how much of the video you're watching. They can see if you fast forward it, or if you're just taking the test or doing anything like that. So
some
it's
people
all
that don't
covered.
watch the video and just skip straight to the test.
Yeah, and we've had that, and so we just, because then they say, hey, look, we want the CEUs, and look, we just want to be as great with the state as we can, and so we kind of have to do that nice email back to say, hey, I'm actually looking at this, and you didn't actually complete the whole video. In order to get CEUs, you have to complete the whole thing, not just answer the questions, and so then they go back through and get it done for us on everything. So,
Hey, Kurt, do you find that there's a greater pass rate, or there's a greater kind of level of understanding in the industry from technicians, or upcoming technicians that go and sit in a classroom that are get caught up with the boredom, get caught up with the death by slide? Have you measured it? Is there a difference where you've got guys that come to you and you find that maybe the feedback or the level of information that they get, or the level of them passing is greater than them just going and sitting in a classroom?
yeah, yeah, I think so. And again, that's a hard thing to kind of quantify on everything, because the thing that you need is knowledge and information. Because a lot of times as you're taking tests, it's a multiple choice. People can guess, they can do all this other kind of stuff. So any traditional, if you go to CEUs at a state convention, hey, that's great. Those guys are awesome. They do a great job. But you're not tested on it. Did you listen to one thing? Did you gain one little bit of knowledge out of it?
Yeah, I guess
some people can come out of there and just say, no, I didn't pay attention because I don't care. But again, I think that the industry as a whole too, we want it to be better. And me and my partner, one of the things that we said from the very beginning was like, let's raise the level of everything. Because when you do go to those, I mean, man, I was at one recently and they were talking about how a guy was doing termites and he was drilling in the washroom, and he drilled and he was doing injections like inside the house, and then it didn't seep into the ground, and so it went everywhere. So he grabbed the clothes out of the dryer
Oh,
and wiped them up and did all these like horrible things. And so when they come, they are saying, hey, look, all these really dumb things are happening in the industry. And again, I have no idea what the guy's training was. I don't know if he just didn't
wow.
care. I don't know if like whatever. Again, he tried to run it through the washer, which again is throwing massive amounts of pesticides right back into everything and stuff as well. And then he dries it, and the family got, I can't remember, that they had like rashes, they had medical issues, they had all
Oh
sorts of
my
problems.
God.
So it was a huge insurance problem. And look, every time I go to these, guys are telling stories similar to something like this, and it's just like, we have got to pound the pavement of saying this is the proper, safer, better way of doing pest control. And look, like it's hard. It's really hard. Look, if you're Terminex and Orkin and those guys, man, I've talked to a lot of the leaders there. They say, hey, look, Kurt, I love your idea, but we've got entomologists. We've got people who have put programs together. We have schools that they specifically go to and stuff like that. So it's like, yeah, okay, you don't want my stuff, fine. But any Joe Blow who's out there saying, hey, look, I've done door-to-door sales, or I've been a technician and I want to start my own company, how do you find the time to market and advertise and do the financials and train an office staff and train a technician and buy a truck? And it just is massive. And so where do you go? You show them how to spray a house once, and then it's like, okay, figure it out. And then when anything is different, everything kind of falls apart, and
And
guys
also,
kind of,
how do you build the relationship up with the customer? Because I mean, there's the biggest issues. There's so much to do with spraying, knowing the knowledge, putting down the the insecticide or anything else that we're using, or Thermidor, and putting all that. But that means nothing if the relationship is not there.
yeah, exactly. And so there are a million different things going on in any pest control company. And so that's where we're always kind of saying, hey, look, what are the values? What can we do to make things easier? And again, I came from that ownership, that management kind of level to say, hey, look,
Yeah,
what would make things easier? How do we kind of do this? How do we save our time? Because when I trained somebody, I would do all that and get that done, and then I had a full day's worth of work for me still. And then the trainee would go home or do whatever, and I'd be like, okay, I got a million calls, I got to do all this, I got to. And then it was just long, hard, arduous days on everything. And so it really is kind of that, are we getting the water to the end of the row on things? Does everybody have all of the knowledge? Are we doing regular trainings? And that's one thing where people are finding it tough. And look, states, again, they'll put on CEUs, but again, if you can't
yeah.
be there that date, or you got to close down your whole office and stop everybody from doing it, and then you're paying techs an hourly rate to come to this event so that they can watch and
Yeah.
learn and do stuff. And again, it's great knowledge, it's great everything. But again, we've even had people say, hey, look, Kurt, film us. And Jim Shaver over at Catchmaster was kind of the first one, and he said, hey, Kurt, come in and film one of my things. Again, we have different camera angles to keep it there. We grab the
Yeah.
slides, we put it in there, we put music to it, we do all this. And his hour presentation, as great as Jim is and as amazing as he is, we cut it down to like 35 minutes. We were able to take out like
See,
25
there's the
minutes of,
difference.
yeah. And so now it's they've got all the knowledge in 35 minutes instead of these full, long, hard days on everything. And look, for us to get all the information that every technician's going to know is going to take us 100 years on everything, right? To edit it all, do all that. So we can't get there. So we're still big, huge proponents of pest management associations, the states, everything that they're doing.
Yeah.
But again, if we can get certain things to them a little bit quicker and easier and up to speed and prevent all this, that's really kind of where our niche is and where it all fits together.
And I think things change so dramatically in the industry as well, so quickly. The industry's changing, the compounds that are coming out are changing, and there's so many different rules and regulations that are changing. And now we have things that are coming up with PFAS that is going to be more of a legal, a legal problem with the pest control industry, possibly as we move into the future. You've got potential problems that you need to overcome. And I think what you're doing is awesome. And you're never gonna keep doing that, having to just go there and take a CEU when something's changing. I mean, at least you guys can get the information, get the knowledge, get it up there, and have it
Right.
available.
Well, and that has been something that it has been kind of a funny thing about kind of the industry and how it goes too. I think sometimes we like to live in the past and say, hey, look, you can't put that on film because what if the law changes on stuff? Well, if the law changes
Oh
on
God, I
something,
know that's the
it
same
takes
thing.
me
Like
a couple of
I
minutes
know
to
guys that would go
cut and splice and edit and do everything and pull out any misinformation. And we can add, I mean, even without going out and recording, we can add text to a screen. We can do voiceover. We can do all this other kind of stuff to say, now the right information is there. Where if you go to an in-person training and today it was legal to do this and tomorrow it's not, how do you get that information back to them? Now they're either pushing illegal things, they're doing this other kind of stuff. And so it's like, and so, but I do get kickback quite a bit in the industry from state regulators, from people, like that kind of saying, hey, but again, I can make adjustments to any video in a quick manner on stuff. And we have access to all of our people to say, hey, look, this law has changed. Watch, feel free to watch the new video or the updated video or anything like that, and make sure that you're educated on everything. And it's in an instant instead of, hey, yeah, wait till next year and we'll talk about it again or something like that and let you know of the regulations or read this whole long email, which we know people don't love reading long emails about state regulations and stuff like that. So
I remember back in the day as well. I mean, this would be a nightmare for you guys, but back in the UK when I remember going to a flea-infested home that one of the soldiers, we worked for the horse guards, so it was all about horses and animals, and the wife or the soldier had loved animals, had them in the house, and this place was infested. And you would go in there and get covered, but you would come out and you would spray yourself down as well and spray the bottom. And of course, that's a big no-no now.
Yeah.
I mean, you couldn't do that. And I do a lot of photography and stuff like that, and I'd go out with one of the guys a wee while ago. I was doing a shoot with them. And they'd be like, turn the camera away because I'm going to do something that I'm not allowed to do in this state. And get them down. And obviously, you can't do that. So the fact that everything changes, and it just takes someone to lobby a new change, and it just screws up the whole industry.
Yeah. Well, and I think California was rocked pretty good with the rodenticides being banned and everything like that. And I think there's a bill federally that the federal government is kind of saying, hey, yeah, look, we're kind of pushing for that. And it's one of those things that changes things dramatically on how we go about.
I got a buddy.
We
were talking about the other day. We were talking about Thermador, and I mean, Thermador is great. It's a great product. It's great, obviously, a termiticide, but it's great for other things. And he's like, it's difficult to even use it the way we want to use it here in California. They can't. It's so restrictive, and yet it's not in other states. I want to jump onto that a little bit because every state has its own law. Every state's got its. Which when I came to America, I'm like, what? In Scotland we have laws, and that's it, and it's just the whole of freaking Scotland. You come here and this state's got this law, this state's got the next law, and you can't do this. And so how do you then, as a training organization, deal with this complete nightmare of every law having different states, and you have to train these guys in each state?
That's a great question. And it's like what we want to do is we want we don't dive into like specific laws on certain things, right? We don't just kind of jump in and go, hey, look, this is how it's done. But whenever we're approaching a situation, we go with all of the best practices that any expert who has studied forever would go to on something. That they would use integrated pest management. They would assess the situation. They would do a full inspection. They would do all of that kind of stuff instead of just kind of jumping into it. And so that there are different things where it's like being from Utah, we are told and trained to treat inside like the water valve boxes on everything. And so we had that on our video, and it was going. And immediately when somebody from California had signed up, they said, hey, look, you can't do that in California. There's all these other regulations and stuff like that. So we are then able to kind of, either cut that out and say, make a list of places where, hey, look, these are good places to treat on everything. Or, the kind of final thing is if there are things that are questionable as well, is that we just had the people that we were training saying, hey, look, these are all legal and good in the state that we are doing this. States can vary a little bit. And if there is that higher level of anything that isn't appropriate, make sure you're talking to supervisors and state leaders on everything like that. And so, but that's the thing, is we actually have it in, we have clients in the UK. We have clients
really?
Yep. Probably all 50 states out now. And we have them in Canada and Mexico as well, where it's kind of different regulations, different things like that. And we've had them look over it. And if there's anything that hasn't been up to par, in one of them, we had a guy throw a rodenticide in a garbage can. And somebody said, hey, look, you can't do that. Look, we jumped in there. And again, in Utah, that's not a problem. But even from the customer side, if they say, hey, look, what are you throwing in my garbage can?
Well, no,
on things, it's kind of the disposable thing. And I thought, hey, that's a brilliant point. We made through, we did a few edits on everything. And guess what? That's no longer there. And so we kind of always say, hey, look, we keep it to the highest standards. And because laws and regulations do change, we just allow, the offices still to do it. We get kind of the same question for, kind of services. They say, hey, look, we all do pest control differently. And so usually my answer to people on something like that as well is, hey, look, we do a little bit differently, but for most everything, we're identifying pests the exact same way. We should all be using integrated pest management. We should all be having ladder safety, driver safety, heat exhaustion training, first aid, spill, all this other kind of stuff to say. Exactly. We should all be doing that exactly the same and in the best manners. But then when you do get to, hey, this is actually how I'm going to treat a house. Some people don't spray the eaves. Some people don't granulate. Some people. So as we're kind of doing that as well,
and
it is
there's
just,
a change.
hey, look,
you can only go a certain few inches up, or you have to go 1 foot up, or a little bit. Everybody's different.
Yeah, with the pyrethroids, with some of the states on everything and stuff like that. And so that's where we just kind of had our people saying, hey, look, in my state, this is where I'm doing it. These are natural products, or these are ones, because then, people wondered at first too. They're like, you can't spray pyrethroid like that. And we're like, well, that wasn't even a pyrethroid, but okay. But we didn't name the exact product that it was. So then we throw some stuff up on the screen to say, hey, remember, this is the rule right now and stuff like that. And you stop the video and a big bing comes up so that you make sure to read it and you're there watching it and everything.
Brilliant.
And then it's like, oh, okay, this is the safe, proper way of doing this type of thing. And so, and then again, jump right back into all the other stuff that everybody's doing the proper way. And all of us are doing it the exact same way.
Now, you mentioned that you've got clients in Britain, which I find phenomenal, because when I see your company, I'm like, you're in America. The fact that you cover, 20 states so far or something?
Yeah, CEUs in 20 states. We've worked on some in Canada as well. We have some people that are kind of helping us out with that too. So
what is that? I mean, do you want to take Pest Pro University to a global scale? Because like you said, why not aim high? I mean...
No, honestly, we would absolutely love it. We would be ecstatic about everything like that. And that's always kind of the thing, is you got to have a great foundation on everything. And so, our core, everything that we're doing comes, through the United States, because that's going to be the majority of companies that we know. I understand the regulations, doing all that kind of stuff. But there is nothing to say that we can't expand and just kind of be everywhere. And so, absolutely, it's as long as we can do it. We've had a few people approach us about getting it in Spanish, so that it's good for other countries as well. And so it's we do have a branch in Mexico. I guess they speak English, but they are definitely a Mexico-based company, and they used us for a couple of years on everything, and it's been a great relationship. But we don't have there's a bit of a cost that kind of comes to kind of doing that. And so we're saying, hey, look, if we can kind of commit to something, if we can kind of continue to grow on stuff, we will get it in different languages. We will do different things like that as well, and just make sure that everybody can get great access to great training.
That's brilliant. I love how you do it. Why did you? I mean, I know you had your own company before, you sold it, but what really was the drive behind you setting this up? Because I'm not going to say you've revolutionized the industry, because there's a lot of people out there that have got courses and things and coaching, all that sort of things are going, but I think you're doing something right. And so there must have been a driven passion behind you that wanted to do more than just set up a company and
Well, and exactly, it was kind of one of those things. Again, I had worked for a bigger company. I had
yeah.
started my own, and it was like, hey, look, this is going to be where we're going to go. And again, it was just kind of the thought, the idea. Of course, hey, look, yeah, we'd love to revolutionize the industry and say, hey, look, we're doing something really great here.
Mm,
But it was just kind of that thing that as you're starting up, it was like, how do I do all of this? And we had a couple of partners on everything. So there were a number of us, a lot of
mm.
chiefs out there, kind of making decisions, doing everything like that. My buddy had mentioned this to me to say, hey, look, could we do something like that? And the more I thought about it, it was like, that is brilliant. Yes, let's do it. And as the company wasn't, growth is a hard thing in pest control. It is competitive. It is difficult.
Massively.
I
Yeah.
live in a yeah, I live in a town, and I think a lot of the industry around the U.S. knows now too that door-to-door companies are getting much bigger, and they're pushing, and they're becoming a major player in pest control. And so I come from that door-to-door area. I'm from Utah, and so in the town that I'm in, we probably have, our county has probably about 200,000 people. And when I Google pest control company St. George, there are literally hundreds of them, and it's like, man, there's only 200,000 people.
So
How do we
competitive.
survive something like this? And so for me, it was a little bit like, hey, look, there is just a ton of competition. People are starting up companies all the time. There's all these other things. And when I do come from door to door, we just didn't have a ton of training. Most people would start up and say, I know how to sell it. I don't know a thing about the chemicals. I don't know a thing about treatment processes. I don't know a thing about the insects, but I can sell it. And so I'm going to go out there and do it. And so it was kind of like, hey, look, that's my background. Like, if we make this easier, hey, all of you door to door guys, this is going to be so much easier. And then, of course, obviously, there's everybody else who's just hiring people on. And at any time you do, they need that information, they need that work. And so again, yeah, we did start it as a new hire type of thing. But again, once you kind of get through a lot of that new hire, you just keep adding knowledge and wisdom and expertise onto everything. And we've made a lot of great connections, and been able to add a lot of advanced classes and courses as well.
Do you, how do you, I want to go into maybe your support side of things, like how, if someone's just not getting it, they're maybe a new technician, they maybe don't understand certain aspects of entomology about, the different pests and things like that. What is your support like if someone's just not getting it or they don't understand anything? So or are you just leaving them and say, we'll just keep watching the video until you get it? Or are you helping them?
you, no, you know what actually is, the thing is of course everything is a process, right?
Mm,
At first it was just like, hey, what can we get out there? And we've grown, and we're big enough that people are kind of asking those questions to say, hey, how do I do this? How do I do that? And they're coming with us with a lot of questions. And when that happens, and I have my job of helping create these videos and traveling and doing all this other kind of stuff, it's hard to be there on everything.
mm.
And so we've actually, through this process, have made quite a bit of friends, and people of the company, where they'll jump on the video, and then it's like, hey, look, if people need help, I will help them out, have them reach out to me. And so, one of those is Nate Freshour. He's with Impact Pest Consulting, and has been in the industry forever. I actually knew him, with my first company on everything. And
Right.
so it was, kind of one of those things where I've been able to refer people to him, and he's kind of jumped on and been able to help people out in certain circumstances on stuff. So
So
it's been
you've
great.
kind of driven you've kind of gone even beyond the educational model and created a community model as well.
Yeah, yeah, and that's kind of the hope. Again, one thing that I absolutely love about the pest control industry is that as we ask people, again, I think for something like door-to-door sales, it feels like we kind of had a trade secret. We're not going to tell anybody how we're doing this. We're not going to let anybody know what's going on. But I feel like everybody kind of knew what was going on and how
Yeah.
it was all working out. When I got into kind of the more like organic growth for pest control, any question that I have, I can go to anybody. There was a guy who reached out to me and said, "Hey, Kurt, I have 4 branches. I'm interested in your stuff. Do you have anybody who's about my size that has used you, that would be willing to talk and discuss and do everything like that? Kind of give you a referral." And right off the bat, there was one company, and I'm like, "Hey, I know these guys really well." And so I just reached out to them and said, "Hey, look, are you guys all right with talking to them?" And the response from them was, "We would absolutely love to do that. Like if we can't share what we know, if I'm just not better." And the reason I did reach out was because they had 2 markets that were similarly close.
Right.
And so I just said, "Hey, how's this?" And he goes, "Even if they were right in our market and we were direct competitors, I would talk to them anytime, because if we're not doing
That's
things the
brilliant.
best in house, then we're just not doing it." Yeah, and I just thought, what a cool response on something
Yeah.
like that, to just kind of say, either I'm doing it great or this guy's going to kick my butt and he's going to be the one who's better than me. So what am I doing to make sure that I stay on top of it? And then everybody around is like, "No, that dude's a cool guy. He's a respectful
Do you
person."
know,
And I just think that the industry is better for that.
I love that you're saying that, because I have this feel, this theory, not theory, it's a hypothesis that there's enough to go around for everybody, because it's constantly growing. I mean, we're constantly developing new families. There's
Yep.
a need for more housing.
Population is
It's
not
always
slowing
growing,
down.
dude. I mean, it's crazy.
Yep.
So I've always, any of the companies I've worked with and consulted with, I'm like, stop worrying about your competitors are doing this. Just
Hmm.
there's enough out there. Just make sure that your messaging's on point, that
Yep.
your service is beyond reproach, and you're going to grow. It's as simple as that.
Yep.
But if you're constantly worried about the competition, you're going to concentrate more on the competition, and you're going to fail on giving the service.
I 100% agree with that, and that's and look, the truth is that it's hard sometimes, right? That we're always trying to get an edge, we're always trying to get a leg up, but every time the most successful companies that I know, it is amazing to see them, because their mission is the same. Their core values are right there, presented in every
Yeah.
place, and they're doing this sort of thing. And it's just like, it's kind of amazing when you're saying, "Oh, well, how do I grow my company? How do I do this? How do I want all this other kind of stuff?" And you jump into things like marketing, and you're doing all these other kind of things. And then when you go into the really successful, it's always about honesty, integrity, trust, and all those kind of things. And if you can build a culture to
Mm.
something like that, then it doesn't matter what anything else goes on. It doesn't matter, because when people are going to get there, they're going to say, "Hey, look, here was these guys. They did things the right way. They obeyed the laws. They charged me a fair price, and
Yeah.
they were just good people to work with." Because look, some customers are going to flop all around, all over the place, and say, "Oh, you're going to offer me $2 less for the service? I'm going to jump on with you." And then they're going to say, "Oh, wait, they don't have a sustainable model. They are
No.
cutting corners. They are doing whatever the situation is." And then they'll be right back on you. And it's a little bit of a waiting game. It's a time process to build something like that. But if you do it right, majority of the time, and to the best of your ability, you will grow and you will be a better company.
I've always said go for long-term growth rather than short-term cash, because short-term cash runs out,
Yep.
and
Yep.
long-term growth is
100%.
is sustainable.
Yeah, yeah. I couldn't agree with you more on that. And it is hard. It is hard. And look, as a guy who's in kind of that same situation where I'm like, "Hey, I got mortgages to pay, I got mouths to
Yeah.
feed, I got all this other kind of stuff." You just kind of sit back and you just accept life and say, "You know what? At the same time, I got a great life, even though
Yeah.
money can be tight, things are hard, it's all this, and hey, look, we just didn't make it, and everything wasn't perfect." It's like, just enjoy it. Just sit back, enjoy the ride, and be the best you can.
How do you feel when you're teaching, or when you bring out some new information or education? Do you get a sense of service, a sense of not only enjoyment, but someone that kind of fills you up?
Yeah, you know what? It always kind of feels great, just knowing that we're kind of helping people. Of course, it is a long process through it all, right?
Yeah.
And so there is so much that goes on where it's, hey, we go and we record things and we get all this great information, but then it's hours and hours and hours of editing and piecing together and making it right
Oh
and
yeah.
getting all the right angles and hey, do we present this well enough? And so anytime that we do finish stuff up, we are just thrilled,
That's
and
brilliant.
it just comes back best where companies are like, oh, you know what, like, we have really struggled with this and this guy just nailed it right on the head, and this has been our, but, and again, pest control is better because of it, that company is better because of it, and so there's a lot of just great reasons to kind of be out there and to be a part of it and to say, hey, hopefully we're doing a little bit better on
You're
everything.
doing something right and helping the industry out genuinely.
Yeah, yeah. And that's, yeah, and and that's the thing is we had, something that was absolutely tragic was, a couple of years in, working for a company. I was in Salt Lake City, Utah, and there was a technician, who didn't use a fumigant right, and I'm kind of forgetting it. I think it was in like 2009 that it happened, and he ended up putting these pellets that had a gas associated with
Oh,
them, and put them in vole holes. And some little girls were playing on the front porch right by it, ended up breathing in too much gas, and I think one passed away and one
oh,
was
geez.
hospitalized and in critical condition and stuff like that. And so the reality is majority of the time that's not going to factor into things, but when you can kind of come and give something that is just so helpful, so amazing, again, I can go back, what is that, 16, 15 years ago now, and say, hey, look,
Wow.
that was still a hugely impactful thing on my life, that family, and everybody else, and only because I was in the industry. But it's like, hey, look, if we can prevent that kind of stuff from happening, if we can keep our waters clear and good and pest free, and if we can keep houses, managed with with pest control on everything, and keep families safe with
Yeah.
different things, it's just an amazing thing. And really, what we're doing is we're bringing peace of mind, we're bringing help. And if we don't do it the right way, we bring just kind of the opposite. We bring chaos and tragedy and heartache and all that other kind of stuff. So
Do you think before we kind of finish off and tidy things up, I want to ask? There's a big thing in the pest control industry, these days now, we're moving toward more of an eco-friendly type pest control. I actually, in one of my other businesses, I have one of the top ballistic networks in the world, and one of the things is that it's very difficult, people who have got pest problems, to actually seriously look at an ecological friendly, because at the end of the day, you're going to have, if you were German cockroaches everywhere, you ain't going to be putting down freaking tea tree oil and peppermint. You are going to be, screw it, I'm going to bring in somebody that knows what they're doing. But do you think there is a possible, because you're educating, is there another potential in the industry for natural pest control to grow?
I mean, I think so. Hopefully our science and everything that we're doing just kind of keeps getting better. Let's keep people safe. Let's keep waters clean. Let's do all that kind of stuff. I do love that the industry as a whole, and I'll go back, Jim Shaver again over at Catchmaster, great dude. He said, kind of in his presentation, he said, I thought this whole integrated pest management was a bunch of bull, and they were trying to take away my tools and stuff like
Yeah.
that. And the reality is that spraying and praying isn't the best way to do pest control.
No.
That when you get there and you assess a situation and you say, hey, look, these are the problems, these are the ways that we can kind of fix that sort of thing. And look, I've done roach jobs with vacuuming up the roaches on stuff, and that works so good. And it's way better than having to put chemical on a counter on a
Yes.
place where food or baits and all this other kind of stuff. Hey, look, you cleared all those up. it's fantastic to be able to do stuff like that, to use heat to get rid of bed bugs on everything. It is amazing. And so when we can do stuff to kind of prevent and not say, hey, look, we have to use chemicals, but I doubt other people are looking at this, but if you're going to spend more time there, charge the people more money. They don't want the pests. We know that they will spend money on taking care of pests. And so, hey, save your chemical bills, use heat therapy, use, all those other things, the glue traps, monitoring systems, different things like that. And guess what? We're all just going to be better, happier. Customers are going to be happier. We're going to be happier. Everything's going to be safer on everything. And so, I mean, I absolutely love the science behind everything. I love, and if we can use the tea tree oils, if we can get it to a point where it's like, hey, look, that is just good enough. Along with all the other IPM that we're doing. Perfect. Let's do it.
I like a balance of both myself, actually, but I have to say that, when we've had, any spider issues and I've tried to get rid of them with peppermint or pour peppermint down there, it don't work. It's almost like they're looking at me going, bring it on.
What else you got?
It's not going to happen. Listen, it's been awesome. It's been awesome having you on, and I hope to actually bring you back, and maybe you can, dive into some more stuff, and maybe we'll get to talk a bit more seriously about certain other issues in the industry, and see that again. But what is your, before we finish off, let's finish off on a high. What has been your greatest achievement in your education, whether that be with a particular company, how you managed to change things for them, change them around? What has been your greatest achievement in the industry today?
Ooh, that's a great question on everything. I think, from a guy who's been in that place where he's trying to start out on his own and to say, hey, look, how do I do all this other stuff? How do I get information down there? Greatest achievement is when people say, hey, look, my company is better because of your help on everything. Brilliant. And so I think that is amazing, again, and maybe also kind of the networking on stuff. I have made a ton of friends in this. I have people that I feel are just partners on everything. And it's just the greatest achievement is to have family, to have, an inclusion, a network, and friendship all the way through this process. So it's been great.
That's awesome. Kurt, thank you for being a guest on Pest Finders Professional. I've thoroughly enjoyed it. I do hope that you'll come back and we'll get into this a bit more. And if anybody's got any questions, and any of our members in Pest Finder Professionals, or anybody who's listening to this out there, education is real important. Education to not only keep yourself safe, but really to keep the general public safe and to keep your loved ones safe, because chemicals can be dodgy and pest control can be just as dangerous as anything out there. So don't DIY it. Go out and get professionals who have been professionally trained. And actually, if you run a company and you want to make the job a little bit easier and you've got guys coming on there, then get in touch with Kirk, get them on to the course, get them trained up in whatever 20 states that you're in, get in touch with the guy, go and take the courses, get your training done, and grow your business the right way with the right professionals behind you. If you've got any questions, reach out to us, guys. Kurt, thank you very much for being with us. Hope to see you back.
Love it. Appreciate it. Anytime. I would absolutely do it anytime. Thank you. Have a good one.